Greetings ladies and gentlemen, this is Callistophilus and welcome to my first updated 21x9 Thoughts Upon Series video. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here, and today we shall be having a subjective look at a mystery, almost point-and-click adventure game called Black Mirror. Does it live up to the legacy left behind by the original Black Mirror trilogy, or fall flat on its face, like your typical 90s PC faced with the original Crisis? Well, let's find out. So the Black Mirror is a reimagining of the originally early 2000s Black Mirror trilogy, which is a gothic-themed mystery adventure/puzzle game set in a virtual Scotland in 1926. You assume the role of Mr. David Gordon, who visits his ancestral home for the first time after receiving information about his father's suicide. For whatever reason, the huge castle belonging to the Gordon family has now been left for David, and his arrival doesn't exactly excite the rest of the relatives and workers inhabiting the estate. Why is that? What happened to David's father? And what role does the castle Black Mirror play in all of this? Well, you'll have to play the game for yourself if you wish to find out, as I'm not going to spoil the story for you. I can just say that if you are able to consume information at a great pace and enjoy dark mystery games, then you could very well enjoy it. As for me, I know that I certainly did. Now when it comes to the Ultrawide 21x9 support, then the initial look at the title isn't too promising. Namely, there is no native 21x9 support available at all. The resolution options available are, well, simply not there, which is a shame to see, as the game itself was released only a few months ago, on the 28th of November 2017. With some simple googling on the matter though, I came upon a Steam discussion board, where a user goes by the name of Killing Arts posted a simple yet effective guide for enabling the ultra-wide resolutions in the game. It is a hex editor hack for the binary executable, and it works like a charm on both Windows and Linux versions. The game now works and looks great in 21x9 aspect ratio, and since the cutscenes are not pre-rendered but use the in-game engine, we don't get any form of letter or pillar boxing as well. There is a single downside to the ultra-wide aspect ratios though that I have noticed. Namely, as the cutscenes are not pre-rendered and use the in-game engine to play out, the developers have only thought of 16:9 aspect ratios when playing out and placing characters in the cutscenes. This means that some character placement looks weird in some of the cutscenes, as the developers only considered the 16:9 viewpoint. Furthermore, from the technical side of things, the performance of the whole game is pretty weird. Sure, I am running this on a resolution of 3440 by 1440 and getting only 40 to 60 frames per second on my GTX 1070 under Windows and 30 to 50 FPS under Linux. However, if you look at the game, it makes little to no sense. I should easily be topping off the 100Hz monitor with 100 frames per second, as there are pretty much no moving dynamic object on the screen at any time besides the characters, whose animations are bulky at best. Yes, there are some sweet effects thrown into the mix from time to time, however the fact remains the same. Most of what is drawn on the screen is static in nature, and in my mind the game has no justification to run that poorly. But okay, what was the gaming experience as a whole like throughout the Black Mirror? Well, it definitely had its highs and lows, as one might expect. Let's start with this. There are invisible walls pretty much everywhere. Usually in a point-and-click adventure game, this doesn't hinder the experience due to the control scheme of simply using your mouse to control on-screen characters. In Black Mirror, however, you don't get to point and click to make your character move. You use the well-known WASD keys for movement, and this makes the invisible syndrome very apparent right from the start. I do not fully understand why the developers decided to go with the WASD route instead of using the mouse for movement, as throughout the game there really weren't any spots where it would have been a must-have. But there you go, that's how it works. This also brings me to another point, namely the mouse cursor, which absolutely has to stay in the middle of your screen for the majority of the game's duration. Namely, the position of the mouse cursor on the screen controls your camera angle to an extent. This means that if you wish to make your pointer disappear for greater immersion, you'd be left with a weird camera angle which really makes, again, no sense. Why doesn't the cursor disappear or hide after, let's say, maybe 5 seconds of idling? This way, yes, you could still click on things should you wish to do so, however, it wouldn't be in your face on the screen for the whole duration of the gameplay, thus increasing your immersion. And now, as we are already on the topic of WASD and screen angles, I would like to mention that should anyone think of getting this game, here's a little tip for you. With every puzzle you encounter, be sure to test out thoroughly whether WASD moves the viewpoint while solving a puzzle or not. A lot of puzzles expect you to approach them from many different angles, and I for one failed to understand this as I started. So yeah, here's the tip of the day. You're welcome. Next, let's touch on the subject of acting and how the characters do their corresponding things they're set out to do. Well, let's get started with the animations. They are very hectic and kind of awkward. This, however, I don't think goes against the game itself. If you think of old games like the original Resident Evil series, you might remember that their animations weren't the greatest out of there as well, and it would just add to the eerie atmosphere, hinting you that not everything is okay. Thinking of it as the Grudge syndrome. Why was the scene from Ju-on the Grudge so terrifying when the girl crawled down from the stairs? It was because she did it in a very unnatural way, and I would draw the similarities here with the horror games. Same for the early Resident Evil games and this Black Mirror to an extent. In Black Mirror, the animations aren't exactly that expressively bulky that it would kind of induce the horror effect on you. However, at times it does add a bit to the whole atmosphere of the game. And whilst we're at it, the lip sync in the game is simply horrendous. Just putting it out there. I don't think that any effort at all went into trying to sync up the character's actual audio and the character's lips, which is kind of funny, since the actual voice acting is really good. The actors sound believable, they're nicely in character, and even the overall mixing is solid enough for the title. But that's the characters. During my playthrough, I noticed that someone forgot to insert the audio for the following clip. Have a quick listen. And that is not where the bugs end, unfortunately. I have a feeling that the game was a bit rushed and there was too little time for proper testing of the title. For an example, you get a weird delay of 3 to 4 seconds after every interaction you do with the other characters. Meaning that if you chat with someone and the conversation ends, or if you examine an object and David has something to say about it, then with every this kind of occasion you would need to wait for literally nothing for the 3 or 4 seconds after the monologue has finished. It sounds like nothing and just rambling, but in a game where you examine a lot of things and chat with many different people, it gets old really fast. That's kind of nitpicking, right? Well, the worst bug that I encountered was that the game decided to start crashing at a specific location when entering the chapel. Okay, so I googled and found nothing related to the chapel, though people who have also encountered crashing suggested to either load or try again. Okay, and so I did. After loading the game and trying 14 times in a row, I got lucky and I got through. I have no clue why, but this time brute forcing my way through a bug worked out just fine. Just be mindful about it. Anyways, there is no point in talking about every bug that I encountered throughout the gameplay, so I'll just have you see the best of it, or what I notice. Alright, time to summarize things up. Now, contrary to what you might think that I think of the game based on the video so far, it is not all bad. I very much enjoyed the game, to be honest, and I would definitely recommend it for anyone who likes a good mystery story. There are some technical mishaps with the game and it's not all perfect. However, those mishaps definitely don't make the game unenjoyable. Sure, Bad lip sync, invisibles, on-screen cursors, and bugs suck. However, the Black Mirror got it right where it really matters. And it is a good, enjoyable mystery story with a strong voice acting and enjoyable puzzles which don't repeat. Now I synced a total of 6 hours into Black Mirror according to Steam, making it a game which is easily doable in one evening if you decide to push through it. Does it deserve the 29.99 euros asking price though? I would say that maybe wait for a sale with this one. It is a very enjoyable experience, all in all. However, I personally would not pay 30 euros for 6 hours of gameplay, which has literally no replay value at all. And that will be all that I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you very much for tagging along on this ride, and I hope to see you again on the next video. But until then, I wish you all the best. Bye bye.